think internet check कर लेते हैं जल्दी से किसको भेजना है
All
आपको
right, so we begin. We are live now. So, namaste, Sonam ma'am.
Hi Jerry,
Welcome,
thank you,
welcome to the InspireX conversations that we have every Monday
thank
evening
you so
with
much.
our host and co-founder, Miss Itu Chopra, who will be conversing with you and having a chat with you over the next 45 minutes. I'll pretty much become a fly on the wall and just be listening into you and then join you in the last 15 minutes to ask some thought-provoking questions and generate some insight for the audience and the participants who are watching you on Facebook and other media. So over
Lovely.
to you, Itu ma'am, and welcome once again, Sonam. Pleasure having you on the
Thank you so
InspireX
much, Jerry.
conversation with
Thank
us.
you.
Thank
It's
you so much. Yeah.
such a pleasure, such an honor to be here as well today.
Thank,
Thanks, Jerry.
thank you,
See you in some time.
thank you, ma'am. See you.
Namaste, Sonam, once again.
Hi Itu, it's lovely to chat with you in the many ways that we chat with each other, and I think
Yes,
this one is
yes.
even more special.
It's very special, and I'm totally excited and thrilled to get you on here. And let's dive straight into our conversation. And as Nietzsche says, without music, life would be a mistake. And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane. And those who could not hear the music. So, you know, I know how music is such a beautiful part of your life. It comes from the soul of the heart, and you are an empath and a crusader. Tell us about your music journey. How did it begin? And from advertising and all that you were doing, you came deep into the music. Tell us all about it.
So, like I said, it's lovely to be here. Let me say that again. Also, because I am such a fan of all the work that you all do at Rex, and the fact that there are people, and I will take the liberty of saying people like us who have these thoughts of wanting to make a small impact in our own way, or wanting to put our lives to good use at least, and hoping that our lives amounted to something. So thank you for including me in this panel of esteemed speakers that you've had. It's truly, like I said, very special to be here. As you said, as Nietzsche said, I mean, life without music would be a mistake. I say life without all kinds of art would be a mistake. In fact, this is something I've been saying a lot of since this COVID pandemic and the fallout of the pandemic on artists. But we'll get to that later. We'll talk about my journey first. How did I get into music? I think I was lucky to be born in a house where music was always considered art. Actually, all forms of art were given a great amount of importance. My mother was very artistic, as was my father. And they both emphasize the need for us to grow up in this sort of artistic environment, to learn to express ourselves well. And I mean, I grew up in a house where there was always music playing, from Frank Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald to Begum Akhtar and Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Saab. I mean, there was this, it was the center of our living room, was this beautiful old machine which had spools, and then the turntable came, and there was always music. My mother loved it, and I remember sitting in her lap for the longest time. I mean, my earliest memory is when I was 3, sitting in her lap listening to Begum Akhtar. And which 3-year-old really remembers that? But I do, because it was so impactful. And in fact, I still have that chair with me. When I got married, it's the one thing I wanted to bring to the house. When my mother said, "What would you like to take?" And I said, "I want to take that chair." And it's still to date, it is the chair that I create, and it is the chair that I sit in, metaphorically speaking, and I believe in many other ways, in my mother's lap, and in the love of my mother's arms, and I am able to write and compose, and so it's very special to me. um, I have 2 elder sisters. They listen to a lot of music as well. So, I mean, my room was in the middle of these 2 girls who were 4 and 5 years older than me. So there was everything from Eric Clapton to Pink Floyd to, the Beatles. So, is kaan se kabhi yahan, is kaan se wahan, samne se haan. So there was just music all over. And I
Music all
loved
around.
music always. And so I started learning when I was very young. I've learned from quite a few different teachers when I was younger. But I think the first teacher who really had any kind of impact on me would have been the Daga brothers. When I went and learned from the Daga brothers, I learned from the younger of the 2 Daga brothers. And
Okay.
it was just such a special experience because they welcomed me into their home and really made me feel like I was a member of the family. In fact, I remember a time around my 10th boards were approaching, or I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was around my 10th boards, and my mother said to my Guruji, she said, Sonam's not able to come as often as she can, and will you just recommend someone who can come to the house and teach her in this interim period till she gets past her boards, and then maybe in the 11th she'll come regularly. And he said, nahi, is bachchi ko main hi padhaunga. And to me that was so much. He had, like, literally, they made me feel like family. And then when he passed away, I learned from his elder brother, but I think I was pretty shaken by that. And so I stopped singing for a long time, Itu. I went to art school anyway, and art school was 9 to 5. I was very interested in visual art as well. And I think most artists have many different, I mean, you write, you do so many different things. So you understand the whole idea of having many loves.
Yeah.
And I think we're greedy for those experiences in a good way, not the kind of greed that the Bible says not to have, but the good greed that hungry for those lovely experiences. And so then I went to art school, and it was 9 to 5. Luckily for me, art school, again, so many artists. So there was always music in the canteen. We got to express ourselves through art, through music, through visual art, through fashion. I mean, it was all kinds of things. We were just exploring art, sculpture. My foundation years, I got to do everything. So I got to understand art from a really wonderful kind of umbrella, holistic way. And I got to dip my fingers in and really get my hands dirty, quite literally speaking. And it was the best possible way to do it. And spending 9 to 5 was really important. I remember making that decision very early on of not wanting to go to Delhi University because I got into Hindu to do political science, and that was also one of my favorite subjects. But I knew that I wanted to get into life very early. I wanted to just jump in, and I wanted to, like, literally, again, I'll say, get my hands dirty.
Great.
Yeah, and create an experience. And so, I didn't want to go to college and come back home at 12 o'clock or having done one class a day. I wanted to spend my whole day. And it was great because we would go to college from 9 to 5. We would get assignments. You'd come home, you'd work on the weekends. And then, you'd do overnight. So you learned the concept of this wonderful discipline of because you loved what you did, not because someone was forcing you to do it. So it was great. 4 years of art college. Towards the end of my stint in art college, I got back to music. I started learning from Shubha Mukherjee, and that was wonderful. But I think even then, I wasn't able to give it the kind of time I did. I should have given it because I had very long hours with college. Then I took a year off after college, maybe like 7 months off, and I painted, and then I got this commission. And this is a little bit of an aside. I got this job from this hotel that asked me to paint many watercolors, and they said they were going to pay me a lot of money, or so I thought. I was very naive, and I thought, gosh, I can retire, I mean, I was like, this is great. They're paying me, I think they paid me 1 lakh of rupees. I mean, I'll even say, and I thought, wow, I can spend the rest of my life on that money. And I thought I could retire. And I realized that very quickly that, 1 lakh doesn't go very far. And also that I didn't want to retire. But I had this vision of being this artist who'd retire and just spend her life in Goa painting or something. Anyway, so I joined advertising. I joined advertising as an art director. I loved my boss was wonderful, but very early on I realized that as an art director they wouldn't give me the freedom to ideate. They'd give me something that someone else would create, and they'd say, okay, design it. And I'd say, but why can't I be the one who comes up with the birth of why can't I be at the birth of creation? And they would always say, no, it's okay, you just design it. And firstly, like, I love creating. Secondly, I'm a bit of a sickney. So I'm not a bit of, I am a sickney. So, you can't tell me what to do. That's really something I think my bosses realized early on, that I have to follow. And I want to be, like I said, I want to be deep in everything that I do. And until I work hard, I don't feel like I'm totally involved in it. Even just going back to when I was a child, I would get all the kids of the colony together, and there'd be children from different, stratas of society, sizes, shapes, forms, gender, this, that. I'd get like 20 children together, and I would create and curate a cultural program, and all the costumes would be mine and my sister's clothes, to my poor mother's, like, oh my God, what just happened to my child's wardrobe? But everyone, and we would sell tickets to the parents. Of course, the poor parents were the guinea pigs. They'd have to come, and I don't know why. I think when we were young, we had our head screwed on straight. Even then, whatever 20, 30 rupees we'd collect, we'd give to charity, or we'd give to the mandir, or but it was great that, at that very early age, I think I just knew that I wanted to sort of get people together and do things and create. So now when I look back, I realize that, right? I think at that time you're not thinking it. Anyway, so I joined advertising. I spoke to my boss after 6 months and I said, look, I really want to be at the birth of the idea. I'm not excited just doing something that someone else gives me. And I was fairly, I think, confident when I told him, I said, I'll be better than the other person. And he said, how can you be so sure? I said, well, you have to give me a chance. So he said, okay. And I said, here's the test you'll do. We'll both write the ads, the writer and I, but you are not going to know who wrote it. I said, you have to do it like the Coke Pepsi test, the
Yes.
blind test. So he said, all right. He was very sweet. He said, all right. And he eventually chose my ad. And that's how I also started writing in advertising. And I was really the only writer art director in Srikaya Grey at the time. And I think what was very interesting for me to see very early on is very soon into that role of playing a dual role, I had, someone, I think senior management come to me and say, okay, you have to decide one or the other. And I said, but why do I have to be one or the other? Why can't I be both? And they said, no, you have to be one or the other. And so it was a difficult decision and yet very easy at the same time. Even though I'd spent 4 years getting an art degree, I just said to them, fine, I'm going to be a writer then. So they said, are you sure? I said, yeah, as long as I get to be at the beginning of the idea, it doesn't matter what it takes. And I came back home and I told my mom this, and she was like, really, you spent 4 years going to art school to become a writer? And I said, yes. And she said, good for you. And what was great about that decision also was that every time I did an ad, I was able to tell an art director that, no, I don't think it looks right this way, and they knew that I wasn't coming from a place of inexperience. I was coming from a place of expertise because most of them were my contemporaries anyway at the time. So it actually turned out really well. I stayed with Srikaya, I then joined contract advertising as a writer. I was very lucky. I got promoted very quickly, got to work on some incredible campaigns. I had a wonderful boss. I've been very fortunate. I've had good bosses, barring, say, one who I wasn't afraid of. And I think I called him out when he tried to steal an idea. So, I wasn't afraid, I think. And now when I look back at that fearlessness, it's sometimes, you have to remind yourself to keep the fearlessness of your youth, because it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be fearless. And you must be fearless. And then, advertising. Then I joined contract. I was very happy at contract around the turn of the millennium. I was still learning now. All through this time, I was learning. But again, advertising, crazy hours, not getting enough time to do music justice. I think around the turn of the millennium, I decided that I would quit. Everybody was asking me, what are you doing for the millennium? What are your party plans? That was the big thing that everyone was asking. And I thought, what's the big deal? And yet, funnily enough, it was at the turn of the millennium that I suddenly decided that, what, my party plan is that I want to give this music a real shot. I don't want to look back when I'm 70 and say, I wish I had done this. I want a life without regret, to as much as I can control it. So I said, I'm not going to do this. And I went to my boss and I said, I'd like a 3-month sabbatical. And he asked if I was angry with someone. In fact, he was quite surprised. So I said, no, only client servicing all the time. But I said, but I'd just like 3 months off. I want to see if I can do this. And they were very kind. They gave me the time. And almost as soon as I quit, I knew within the first month that I'd done the right thing. And that I didn't need to go back. I was worried, I think, initially that, what will I do with this time? Will I be singing the whole day? What will I be doing? And I found it was very easy to immerse yourself in the pursuit of music and knowledge, and also continue freelance writing as I did. The interesting thing that happened to me is when I quit, when I finally told my boss I wasn't coming back, I think the goddess Saraswati decided to test me, and she decided that I was going to lose my voice for the rest of that year. So I lost my voice. I got laryngitis, pharyngitis, nodules, you name it, I got it. But strangely enough, it didn't deter me from, I just decided, I kind of chatted with her and I said, it's okay. You want me to prove it and I'll prove it. I'll prove to you that I'm here for the long haul. And I stayed. And I opened myself up to whatever experiences came my way. And I think that when you do that, you will be amazed at what the universe can offer you. Because I opened myself up and I said, I'm going to be open to whatever. And I got this opportunity to host a travel show from the BBC called the Real India Travel Show. I got to travel to parts of India I would never have done. And the kind of experiences, I went up to the Nilgiri Hills. I met a tribe called the Todas, who make beautiful filigree silver jewelry. They're a tribe of 20 people or something, and it's beautiful. And then I got to ride a yak. I went to Sikkim. I would never have ridden a yak even out of choice, but it was such a great experience. And then I did something for Star Plus called Musafir Hu Yaru. Then I did another really cool thing for the BBC. I did something called the BBC Wheels, which was like being There used to be a show called Top Gear on BBC, which Jeremy
Yes.
Clarkson used to
Yep.
do. So I was like the Jeremy Clarkson for a brief period in India. I test drove cars. And it was the best thing because every time I walked in to a gathering, everyone would be like, oh my God, especially the guys, what car did you drive? And I'd be like this, yeah, I'm a woman
Mm.
driver and I didn't have any accidents. So, get that
Yeah.
out of your head. And the funny thing was, Itu, there was another male anchor who used to
Mm.
do alternate shows. And in
Mm.
his second episode, he crashed the car. And I did all mine without, just to prove this point also of like women
Yeah.
drivers, we really know what we're doing.
Yes.
So, anyway, so I did all of that. My voice came back. I started learning properly, then really was able to immerse myself into it. And that was wonderful. And then a few years into that, my mother got very sick. She got cancer. And it was very bizarre because she was a non-smoker. She was diagnosed with fourth stage lung cancer and given 4 months to live. And I mean, no one was more devastated than all of us. I mean, it was just the most horrific thing for us. But
Yeah.
she was an incredible person. I mean, if at any point in my life, if anyone ever asks me who your role model is, it was her. It was her because she was the strongest person I knew. I mean, her and my dad, the way I've seen them support each other through their illnesses, the way I've seen strength, gratitude, immense gratitude, and the ability to see light even in the darkest times. I mean, those things, and being so grateful for the smallest joys in life. Those things, if I have to keep reminding myself, that if I can be half the people they were, then I'm okay. So, anyway, she beat it with sheer courage and fortitude. She beat it for 8 years. But in that period, that 1 year was very, very hard because we were totally focused on her getting well. So, again, music took a backseat. So, it was very interesting. If you look at just the trajectory of my music, it was start, stop, start, stop, start, stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then after that first year, I thought, okay, now I'll get back to music. And I couldn't. I just couldn't find the heart to sing. I think I was just so heartbroken inside that it was too hard. And I said again to the universe, I said, maybe I'll do theater. And it was this weird thing that just popped into my head. I'd never done theater. I mean, everyone's acted in a school play. And yeah, I knew how to use my voice, but I wasn't an actor. And literally in a week, I got a call from a friend who was a playwright who said, listen, there's an audition for a play. Would you like to come? And I said, yes. And so I went for the audition, and he called me a few days later to say that, no, you haven't got the role. It was for the second lead. He said, you haven't got the role. And I said, no problem. I mean, I wasn't expecting to get the first role that I auditioned for. And 2 days later, again, he calls me. He said, actually, you haven't got the second lead. You've got the lead. And I was traumatized. I was like, oh my God, I've never acted. What am I going to do? Anyway, I was terrible as the lead in the first time because I couldn't cry on cue. I couldn't laugh on cue. And I think the director really struggled and I struggled. But one thing I knew for sure was I wasn't going to give up. I was going to see it no matter how many tears there were and how much frustration there was. And it turned out to be a really good play by the last. I was pleased with how far I had come. And then another play happened simultaneously, kind of the middle of that, which turned out to be a musical. So I sang and I danced and I got to travel around the world. We went to the UK, to Ireland, to Singapore, six cities in the UK. And it was like a dream because for a month and a half to be part of a traveling crew, to do get in and get out of theaters and some of the most iconic theaters, and just to understand again. And for me that was very important, this leaving home for that 1 month after having gone through such a difficult time watching my mother be so ill. That 1 month or month and a half where I knew no one in the cast, right? So they were not friends. They were perhaps people, even if I'd met, I may not have chosen to be friends with them. But when I came back, they turned out to be my closest friends. During that period of time, it was great because as soon as we'd finished, we'd perform from Monday to Friday. Saturdays were off. Sundays we would travel. Saturdays I would explore the city on my own, and I would make sure I would go with no one from the cast. And it was great because I was no one then. I was not Sonam. I was not anybody's sister. I was not anybody's daughter. I was not anybody's friend. I was just this clean slate. And I got to understand so much more of life because I went out there as a clean slate, spoke to strangers, experienced things, did small things on my own, small things that feel like big victories, knowing that you can survive in this world on your own. And even when you're
So,
competing.
Sonam, you've so beautifully encapsulated, this little journey of this little girl to who you wanted to be. And, in that you have summed up so many beautiful things like, beautiful parenting lessons, beautiful lessons as a child, Also, go for what you really want to do. Don't fear. Fearlessness is a power. Take what you want to take. So a lot of young people watching would know that, if you choose what you want to choose, and if you do it with passion, and this energy that you give it to back to yourself, then nothing is impossible. You can actually make every little dream of yours come true
I
and make it
totally
into a
agree.
success.
I mean, even if, and also, Itu, it's interesting when you use the word success. So I think,
Yeah, and
yes.
the definition of
No, it's
success
so
and
interesting,
you is
right?
absolutely
No,
different.
it's so interesting because one
Yeah,
of we are all born with this incredible GPS that we ignore and we hide.
absolutely.
We try not to listen to it because it knows the truth better than anything else. You know, that
Agree.
nagging voice which tells you this is wrong, or your intuition. Your
Yes,
intuition, everyone has very strong intuitive powers. It's whether you choose to hone into them or not, whether you choose to
yes,
listen to the signs that the universe gives you. So if we could all just learn to like tap into this core of our hearts, it would tell us good from bad, it would tell us right from wrong, and specifically it would tell us what our own unique person believes to be right or wrong, right? So because what's right for me may not be right for you. However, you have a guide that's telling you, a barometer of sorts that's telling you what's right or wrong in your own heart, and you just have to trust that. And we have to stop listening so much to what will the world say if I choose a path that's slightly different. In fact, more and more, fortunately, now the world keeps talking of disruption. It's become this very trendy word in the whole, disrupt. Great. Now people are trying to be disruptors, but I still feel, don't be disruptive as a disruptor just because it's cool. Be different because it's uniquely you. Don't be different for the
absolutely.
sake of being different. And success, you said, yes, I mean, what is success? My success may not be that I want to see my name up on a huge banner or a massive hoarding or have 80 lakh followers or whatever. My success may be that when I sing to you, I'm able to change one mindset who was really polarized or really, didn't understand or accept the plurality of religions. And if one person writes to me at the end of a concert, which I just recently, and I'm bringing this up because very recently I got a mail from someone on Instagram where she said, she's an Indian girl who lives in Australia, and she was saying that she said, I was happened to be in Sundar Nursery when you were singing that day, and she said since then I've come back and listened to your music, and you have changed my mind about the plurality of religion. And I read that with tears streaming down my face because I thought that's all I want. That is success to me.
So, um, Sonam, why are you a Rex nominee and why are you here is for those many reasons. Because at Rex, we talk about this innate heroic potential that everyone has. And our school program, our all initiatives are tapping into this heroic potential that each one of us has and bringing it out, because that's the way to make the world a more beautiful place. And music can be so beautiful, and your music is that of music of purpose, music of with a cause, music with a spiritual hue, and you also talk of music with truth. I want you to share insights on that, because that's something so important for us as a movement, us as an organization, that truth be spoken. Right every wrong is our slugline.
Right, of
So
course.
right every wrong is our slugline. So give us more insights on music of truth.
So I think for me, like I said, being authentic is really important. It always has been. Being true to yourself, being true to what your heart tells you, what your GPS, your intuition tells you. It started from there. Following what you feel to be right and not doing what the herd tells you. That's one. To
Absolutely.
music of truth, really, I think, Itu, for me, I would, maybe it was the fact that I lived through the 1984 riots where I saw our religion, the Sikh religion, being targeted for no reason except for a label. And I think I was, of course, horrified at what we had to see because it was a very traumatic time. I remember how frightened I was and
Yes.
how very close my parents came to getting killed because the mob came to the house just behind us. And I was at a friend's house between my parents' house and the mob. and I was on the terrace, and I could see this whole busload of people get out and try and attack these two Sikh gentlemen. There used to be a brand called Texla TV, and they were the owners of Texla TV. And I remember this one Sikh man just pulled out his kirpan, his sword, which you get at weddings, or you wear at your wedding, but most Sikhs anyway, it's part of the 5Ks, right?
Yes.
So he was holding this kirpan, and he said, "Bole Sonia Hal," which is it's just, a cry, a war cry, they say, but it was a moment of courage where he stood up against 50 people, and those 50 people stopped. They stopped because they were not there for any religious purpose or to avenge anything. They were just there to loot, right? It had turned into one of those big things where people were just looting and killing now because it was free for all. And somebody shouted, "Akela hai, go for it." And his son came out, and he, very frightened he was, and he was holding a pistol. I remember he didn't fire it. Unfortunately, the police, we were right next to the police station. And I guess the police, because of years of these people living in the colony, the police came and they fired a shot. In the end, within seconds, the mob dispersed. But consequently, what was happening at my house at the same time was that a wonderful driver who, my parents had told all the staff that, look, you're more free to leave. You don't have to stay with us because we're a Sikh family. Don't risk your lives. Don't put them in danger. And the driver who had stayed, he went running to my father and he said, "Sahab, why don't you go to where Sonam ji is? Go to the back house. There was a gully to come in." And he said, "Why don't you go there because you'll be safe?" So he went to my mother, sorry. And my mother picked up a handbag and she went to my father and she said, "Let's go." And he said, "I can't." He said, "I can't be chased out of my own house for something I believe in. For believing, for my beliefs as a Sikh, I will not be shamed. I will not be made to be afraid." And so she said, "Well, if you're not going, I'm not going." So they both sat there and they said, "We'll just accept whatever comes to us." Of course, when I came home, I was livid. I was like, "You would have destroyed your 3 daughters." But I am so proud of their beliefs as an adult, when I think of what they did and of what they believed in. But I think all of these things impacted me at a very early age. And I just knew that this whole fighting in the name of religion, it really bothers me. These labels really bother me. Even the labels of gender bother me, and how we will, as a world, we will take what is different. We will take what is different from us and try to make it less than us. I don't understand that. Whether it's, I have constant arguments with people about even the stray dogs on the street. There's within my colony, there are people saying, "Oh, they should be poisoned, they should." And I'm just like, since when did you have the only right to the earth? Who decided that? Everyone has an equal right to this earth. So I wanted then to start talking about, when I say truth, I wanted to start talking about what felt true to me, which was the truth of acceptance of all humanity, all entities as equal, with neither one saying I have a greater right, neither one saying I am more valid than you. So it started off with understanding Sufism, because Sufism means an acceptance of all humanity. It's not really a religion, it's the Sufi way. And then I blended gospel with it, because gospel meant the truth. And I started talking of realizing that, each of us has our own truths. And you can find it, speaking just say of religion, you can find a truth in a temple, a shrine, a church, or a mosque. But you have to realize that each truth is just as valid. And when we can start doing that, and when we can stop saying the word that we love to say, everybody loves to say with great joy that, "Oh, I'm so tolerant, and we are such a tolerant country, and we're such a tolerant people." And people use this word as fantastically great word. I have great aversion to the word. I'm saying to tolerate means to put up with at a distance. That's what it means, to put up with. I'm not saying put up. I'm saying putting up is the reason we fight. I'm saying accept and embrace. When you can truly accept as equal and embrace as equal, when you can even, the very premise of namaste, which India is so proud of, right? And now with COVID, everyone's saying, "Wow, it's great." Everyone's saying namaste. What does namaste mean? I see the divinity in you. I bow to the divinity in you, which means I'm supposed to see God in everyone as an Indian. If I'm supposed to see God in everyone, then what am I fighting over religion about?
Yeah.
So that's where the music came from. It emerged from this place. And I said, I'm going to do what hadn't been done. I was ready to take the critique for it. I said, I have to express what Sufism means to me. And how can I do that? I've grown up in a country where I've been exposed to so many different languages, so many different faiths, and I've always seen everything as equal. And I said, so why not put it all together in different languages. So take poetry, prayer, and music from different languages and religions and blend it together to try and create a universal voice of faith. And that's what I did. And I mean, I have to say, it was the first time I performed this, I think, on the 10th of May at the India Habitat Center 9 years ago. And it was soon after my mother died. My mother passed away in January that year. And actually, it was funny because I do believe in so many ways. A year before my mother passed away, how the idea came about, of course, was a year before my mother passed away, is I'd got invited to sing gospel music at the Dargah of Sufi Inayat Khan in Delhi in Nizamuddin. Now, again, a few years before that, after my mother had got better after her cancer the first year, I did theater for many years. And then I finally, through theater, I was able to get over my pain and I started singing again. But strangely enough, I kept getting drawn to this gospel hymn, Amazing Grace. And I couldn't understand why, but I said, okay, I must explore it. If it's something that I'm singing again and again, why? What am I being told? And so I happened to be in Singapore at one time and I started learning from, on a holiday. It was a 5-day holiday. I found myself a music teacher and I started learning gospel from her. And she was a lovely teacher. In fact, we still work together a lot. Through gospel, then I came back to India and I did my first concert, which was not Indian classical music. It was gospel, Broadway, jazz, stuff that I hadn't really spent years learning, but just stuff that I did in over this period of year. And I said, of that year, and I said, I'm going to just do it. And it was called Notes from Here and There. The response to that was kind and really overwhelming. And after that, I started singing gospel a lot, and everybody, Itu, that just freaked everyone out because they were like, you're a Sikh girl. Why do you sing Christian music? Why don't you sing, Shabads? And I said, why can't I call out to God in whichever way feels right to me? I mean, how does religion come into play? Again, that was the first time I started thinking also about why are people so hung up on this, because religion is not God and God has no religion. So how does it matter? So anyway, so then I got invited to sing at the Dargah of Sufi Inayat Khan. I think that's when it was a moment of pause for me because I thought, I'm a Sikh girl. I sing Christian gospel music. I'm getting invited to a seemingly Islamic space to sing this. 100% the universe is telling me to do something worthy of this opportunity that's been granted to me. And I think that's when the Sufi Gospel Project as an idea intuitively came into my mind. I performed it there. And again, it hadn't taken shape. I just did it all intuitively. I got a sarangi player to play with me while I sang Abide with me and a few things that just happened organically. When I was leaving Nizamuddin, I still remember standing on there. My car was coming to pick me up and the Sufi Gospel Project literally was like something that was given to me. It popped into my head right then. I said, that's what this is. And then began that last year was the year my mom was very sick, so I wasn't able to spend too much time thinking about it. But I do remember her saying, we went into the studio and recorded a couple of the songs. And she kept saying, when you finish, you have to put it on my iPad. And I said, absolutely. And of course, she passed away before I could do that. And she used to run a music heritage society, which promoted Indian classical music and would try and reduce the gap between the listener and the performer because everybody tends to think Indian classical music goes over their heads. So they said, will you do a tribute concert to her? And I did do the tribute concert to her. That's when it took a little bit more form, again, intuitively. When I finished, I think one of my musicians said, you must share this with the world. And then in that period of the 2 months, I really spent a lot of time researching the philosophies and I studied poets from across region, across language, religion, and I found that everyone across borders, across centuries, across time, across religion were all saying the same thing, really, in different ways. And that's what I was able to say through. And therefore, I call it the truth of acceptance or the message of truth or peace. I believe that to be the absolute truth.
Yeah. So, Sonam, all your projects and all your work so resonates with our philosophy of, the way we talk about Rex's philosophy, our salutation and our namaste. As you had seen, we always talk about namaste. Namaste to me has been so important. Even as an army wife married to a cavalier, I would not be able to say hello, hi to senior people. I would always say namaste. Are you there?
I'm there. I was just trying to make sure we have more light.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, as you explained, and Jerry takes sessions in explaining the beauty of the word namaste because it's a leadership lesson in itself. Coming down to, this music of truth, also your music and your lyrics and your talks.
The other thing you said. I lost you. You said coming down to the music, and then you
Yeah.
said I lost you.
So, coming down to your music, your songs, Can you hear me?
I can't hear you for some reason. Itu, I can't hear you.
I can hear you. Yours. Now, can you hear me? Just check the.
I can't hear you. I think maybe let me just check the internet connection.
Yeah. Also, check your headphones.
The headphones are fine. The headphones are okay. I'm not sure why. Seems to
Now,
be a
can you hear
drop.
me?
I can hear you, but it's totally broken. I'm not sure why. It's a bit odd. I have very strong internet, so that's not a problem. Just say something again.
Can you hear me now?
It's very, very broken. We'll try. We'll try and see. Hopefully, it'll get better.
Okay. So I was wanting to know that your songs, your music talks about tolerance, integrity, inclusivity, and that's what your Sufi Gospel project is all about. Tell us about the Sufi Gospel project.
So you're okay with, you can hear me well, right? My voice
Yes,
is
I
not
can hear
breaking.
you. Yeah.
Okay. So the Sufi Gospel Project, like I told you, is really just an attempt to take the many voices of faith and to try and create one universal voice of faith. Now, the idea came about, like I said, when I was asked to sing gospel at the Dargah of Sufi Inayat Khan, and I figured that I needed to do something worthy of that opportunity. Sorry, Itu, can you hear me?
Of course I can. I can hear you.
So why your voice is breaking so much?
I can hear you, Sonam.
Okay. Yes. I can hear you now, so that's not a problem. Itu, if you would give me just a minute, it's becoming very dark. I'm just going to try and resolve this. Sorry. I'm not sure why this has happened, but something. The internet is the other god that we're all at
Dependent
the
on.
hands of these days. So we're going to try. Anyway, so, wow. Okay, I was trying to make it a little bit brighter to see that we could.
It's bright enough.
Yes. Yeah, well, this
Can
is
see
what
your
we
face.
have to work
Yeah.
with. It's very bright. Going to try and see that we can get a little bit of light. That's better. All right, sorry. You have to be your sound engineers these days. You have to be your lighting designer. You have to be your technician and everyone. So it's been a great lesson in learning, I think, this time of COVID for all of us. Sorry, so Sufi Gospel Project literally came about because I was singing gospel music, as I said, and I think I was shocking everyone. And they were saying, how are you breaking these norms? And people get uncomfortable when you break the rules or when you try not to be labeled. And also then, like I said, I got invited to the Dargah and it felt like the right thing to do. So the Sufi Gospel Project debuted on the 10th of May 9 years ago. And I think that what was incredible for me is, I knew I wanted to say this. I don't think when I put it out there, I was looking for any acceptance or anything. I was just wanting to say what I felt about faith, what I felt about humanity, what I felt about God's blessings. Because I had come from that place of having gone through a very difficult time. And I think that when we got a standing ovation for the first performance, and it was a beautiful magic moment, I will never forget that moment because there was this, I think it was what felt like an eternity of people clapping. And then there was this moment of absolute silence, and there was this incredibly kind older lady who said loud enough for everyone to hear. And I know this happened because everyone clapped after that as well. She just said to me, she said, "Straight from your lips to God's heart, my child." And I think everyone started clapping. And that moment, of course, was very overwhelming for me because my mother wasn't there. And I really felt like she had heard as well. And so it's been this kind of journey. Every time I've spoken of this thought of acceptance, of the truth of tolerance, of acceptance versus tolerance, of the fact that we are all saying the same things in different ways, or that we all want the same things, or that we should use our voice to speak out against injustice, or our collective voice and the power of our collective voice. Every time I've said these things, what's just been incredible for me is how much it's resonated with other people, and that gives me so much hope. So much hope that there are so many people like us who want the same things from the world, who want the same kind of peace, who want the same kind of love, to see the same kind of love and compassion between human beings and the same kindness. So it's been an incredible journey. I mean, I've been able to take this across 30 countries to perform it all over the world. And when I say perform, I really feel like to more than perform, I've been able to share this message all over the world. And it's meant a lot to me. And I think that for me, what's been lovely is the Sufi Gospel Project started out as being something about faith, just in God. And it evolved over time, like I said, to speaking out, to standing up for so many causes, then being able to use my voice for whether it was women's rights or anti trafficking or education for children or animal rights, or more recently, I've spoken out for artists, and I don't think, I think because I don't put any boundaries on myself. And I'm the only one who has to set boundaries on myself, right? It's my voice. I choose how I want to use it. Because I don't put any boundaries on myself, and I refuse to allow myself to really be labeled either, that it allows me to become different as a person. It allows me to evolve as a person, and it allows me to keep letting my music and the style and what I want to say with it evolve, because there are no rules as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So music has this power to kind of meander into our heroic potential and bring out the best in us, because it has that power also. And I've also seen you talk about so many causes, be it women of Shaheen Bagh, be it faith, religion, be it atrocities against a certain religion, be it against I get a lot of messages from you about dog adoption, and be it any those kind of things. You stand up and talk and come from this place of great humility. You may have sung at Sydney Opera, you may have sung with legend Abida Parveen. The spiritual ethos that you carry, because we at Rex feel that spirituality, truthfully, for me also is celebrating the human spirit, and that's what we see in your music. So, what gives you that power? Because I know you talk about fearlessness, reinventing yourself, going where no man has gone, all of that. Tell me more about it.
I mean, thank you for thinking that it's a power. It's very nice to hear you say that. It's really
It
sweet.
is. We
But
do believe of
I
it.
think that, I don't know. I think just the whole idea of wanting to stay true to what you believe in. And I keep thinking, I mean, I went many years ago when I went to Lahore, and I was able to sing. I was invited to sing at the Fairs Peace Festival, at the first Fairs Peace Festival. And I remember seeing an exhibition of Faiz Sahab's life. And I stood there watching, and I think I had tears streaming down my face. And my husband, who was with me, he asked me, he said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because this this is what I want my life to be. I want my life to amount to something." And it doesn't. And when I say amount to something, it just has to mean that you lived by what you believed in. It doesn't have to be some massive achievement that you make, but I want to be able to impact people, or use whatever craft I have, and I call it my gift. Use the gift of music to make a difference. I mean, what good is a voice? What good is a strength? What good is a position if you can't put it to good use? Then why have you been given it? You have to understand the reason you have something is for you to use it for good. And I often say that the power of our collective good is unstoppable. The fact that you and I and Jerry and all of us can get together today to just talk about these things, this is the collective power of individuals, which is far stronger than just one individual speaking out. Um, honestly,
One of our another slugline is at Rex, together as one we can right every wrong.
absolutely, right? I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. I think that, like, when we come together, it is unstoppable.
Yeah.
And there's so many of us that that feel the same way, that want to make a slight difference in our own tiny way, and that's what I want to do. That's what I've always felt I've wanted to do. And I think performing, someone's asked me which was the most incredible performance, or what's your most memorable, and I honestly do find it hard to think which performance is more special, because every performance has its own little story, has its own little magic moment, or not, or learning. And when you if you give each performance the same importance, I think that I don't it's not like I have to, it just happens, it means that much to me.
Are you going to sing us one of the performance which is closest to your heart? Mine are a lot of them of yours.
I will sing you, since we're talking about the power of
Yes,
our collective voices, I think I'll sing you a song about the power of our collective
yes.
voices.
Go ahead, please.
I'll say, Faiz Sahab, we just referred to him,
Yes,
and
I want
Faiz,
you to sing that because we use that a lot at our ex work.
I'm happy to hear that. So basically,
Yes.
Faiz Sahab had written this many, many years ago. It was a song where he said, "बोल के लब आज़ाद हैं तेरे, बोल ज़बां अब तक तेरी है, तेरा सुतवा ये जिस्म है तेरा, बोल के जान अब तक तेरी है." Speak out, because your lips, they are still free. Your voice, it is your own. Your body is your own. And this life is your own. He re emphasizes the fact that the strongest tool that you have at your disposal is the power of your voice. And you must use it judiciously. You must use it to speak out against injustice, speak out for good, speak out to make a change, to be the change. And I'll say, जुर्रत की मैंने, छोटी सी जुर्रत की, कि मैंने उनके कलाम के साथ, उनकी कविता के साथ एक refrain छोटा सा ऐड किया, because I believe, like I said, in the power of our collective voices, where I say बोलो एक आवाज हैं हम, बोलो
You know,
एक.
that is the song which made me that I must pull Sonam into this.
Well, I'm really happy to
That
hear
was
that.
then when that song came out. Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear that. So you're going to have to give me a second to pull it up. So obviously when I perform this live,
We are
I have...
a little late on time because I have to get Jerry in, and I have one very important last question to ask you as well.
So should
But
I
yes.
sing it or not?
Yes, of course, sing it, and then
One second. So as I was telling you, normally we have a whole bunch of musicians who perform, but you'll be able to hear them even though you won't be able to see them.
I know. Go ahead.
Just a second.
Thank you so much, Sonam. That was beautiful. And the lines of Faiz Ahmed Faiz Saab is the most used lines on Rex page. And we speak about dissent, we speak about inclusivity, not exclusiveness, inclusivity. And I have a very important question to ask you at the end about your latest song of Log Down,
Look down. Yeah.
of satire, of truth, of empathy. But I'm going to call Jerry in here
Yeah. I'd love to meet Jerry
and
again.
then talk about this song. And I think, talk about this cause and effort that you're trying to make through the pandemic. You've been very busy. So I'm going to call Jerry here, and maybe in the discussion, we'll talk about the lockdown.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hi,
so
Jerry.
namaste once again, Sonam.
Namaste,
Yeah, so
Jerry.
brilliant. Pleasure learning about your entire journey from advertising to hosting shows on TV and driving cars and
I know.
shaming the men who actually
Yes.
shame the women. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
With great glee and pleasure, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it helps that I don't drive a car. Yeah, so. Okay.
You don't
Backseat
strike me
driver.
as someone, by the way, who would shame women anyway. So,
So thank you. One of the things which I picked on, which you spoke about, but I don't think you got a chance to elaborate on it, which is the tolerance part that you spoke about, where you said that why should we be tolerant? And I completely echo the sentiment because I work with a lot of activists that I have worked with them. I refuse to work with them anymore. Uh, the reason being they are nice crusaders and activists. They like using these titles and slogans. But my point is, how does any activist get aligned with any party or any ideology?
Mm.
Because that defeats that defeats the concept of tolerance per se.
yeah,
And going by the fact that we shouldn't be tolerant, we should be inclusive.
right.
We should be one, the oneness concept, right? Which means we need to unbelong.
Absolutely.
And yet you have people, and you worked in Shaheen Bagh, and I remember when we had announced the award for the women of Shaheen Bagh, which was at some time in January,
Yeah.
right? And we were to go there at 7 o'clock in the evening and award the women, and we had worked it out with the organizers that we would award the women, and they could have their niqab on so that their identities don't get disclosed,
Yeah.
to avoid any kind of backlash coming onto them, because the current government is also rogue, just like the previous government, right? And then because the entire thing went viral and the whole crowd gathered over there, you had everybody from the Shashi Tharoors to the Harsh Mandals to the Shabnam Hashmis taking advantage of that particular evening and
Yeah.
coming there and using that podium to promote their own vested interests and agendas.
Agendas. Yes, absolutely.
Right? And I take names because I think we need to name him and shame him, because these are the same people who are talking against Narendra Modi. And I'm not saying Narendra Modi is any great guy. He's a complete wuss as far as the entire governance and the politics is concerned. But hey, how good was the previous government where you were involved in the National Advisory Committee?
I agree with you. In fact, I remember being when it was Nafrat ke Khilaf and I'd sung it near Jamia.
Right.
And I remember one journalist coming to me and obviously wanting a sensationalist sort of headline saying, "Ma'am, what do you think of this government? Do you think it's the government that's doing it?" And I said, I have nothing to say about any of the governments that we've had.
Right.
It's not my place to say it. And I'll tell you why. I
Right.
want to talk to the people of India. I said, we are so fickle as people
Right.
that we find it
Absolutely.
so easy to get swayed
Yes.
and to change our minds. I said, if
Yes.
we could stand strong in our beliefs, if
Right.
we decided that we wanted to be inclusive, if we decided that we wanted to be accepting of all religions as equal, if we decided we wanted to be what it means to be truly Indian,
Right.
then who
Right.
who is going to change our minds?
Absolutely. And I think it's this the pseudo secular activists who have created this rift even more. Surely the governments have polarized, but the pseudo seculars have also not helped the cause. So suddenly you have all this entire thing just because you want to take sides with the Muslims, you are running down Hindu customs and traditions.
Yeah,
Hey, that's wrong,
apparently.
right?
Yeah.
Because whether we like it
Yeah.
or not, we come from a country called India. I was born in a Christian family. I don't believe in the religion anymore. But if I go back my ancestry, to, I'm a Desai, right? So we were
Yeah.
converted much before the Britishers even came in. We were converted in the 1550s. Now you don't want to explain that. So even if you see the entire the narrative and the debates on Goan groups, right, where
Yeah.
you have the Catholics bashing up the Hindus and the Hindus bashing up the Catholics, right, and who do you really call secular over here then? Right, but my bigger issue is with the so-called guardians of society who don't take a stand because their bread is buttered over there when it comes to working with the Congress. So you're a part of the National Advisory Committee, and the last wise man of the Congress, I say last wise man because there are none left anymore, called Montek Singh Ahluwalia, says 32 rupees is good enough for a family of four to live well in this country. This is
Yeah.
exactly a decade ago,
Yeah.
right? And you have all the stalwarts of the so-called activist sector in the National Advisory Committee. We're going to have a lady who was also a part of the National Advisory Committee next week on the show,
Hmm.
on this conversation. You
That
have
would be
Aruna
interesting.
Roy,
That would be
right?
interesting. Yeah.
You have Aruna Roy, you have Harsh Mandar, you have so many others, and none of them oppose this statement. These are the same people who in 2002, and I was a part of them at that time, we had opposed the International Monetary Fund for saying $2 is good enough for a family of four to survive anywhere in the world. Now either these people, their math is very weak, or they've become slaves to the red beacon car. And actually I had to say this in a forum and shame them, because after 2 weeks Aruna Roy asked the question that how are we saying 32 rupees is good enough.
Is
Now
going to be
the
anything.
maths is very simple. 32 rupees is less than $1, and that's a decade later. Now the same people are Modi bashing, which is their pet passion. I'm not saying Modi is the best, but give me an alternative right now. Is there an alternative?
Honestly, I think that more than it's very easy to be an armchair critic, and I see this not just with politics. You see this with arts, and I often say this whenever I address younger generations, and I say younger generations because I believe they're the ones listening, really, right? When we're older, we're set in our ways. But I really say to them that stop until you've stood in the shoes of the person that you're bashing or you've done something in that arena.
Right.
Hold off on the bashing, hold off on the critiquing, because I don't believe you have the right to critique at that point.
Right.
You just work on yourself and becoming a
Right.
better version of yourself, which
Right.
is what I say. I mean, if you want me to, if you want someone to bash the government or you want someone to say something negative about something that someone else is doing, are you in the position to say it? No, you're not in the position to say it. So work on yourself, work on bettering yourself. As India, we
Right.
need to work on becoming better citizens. As human beings, we can
And
be better
Sonam,
than
bang
that.
on. I'm very happy that a lot of what you're saying resonates completely. Whether it's Namaste, which we have actually gone into the depth to explain, it just does not mean that the divinity in me salutes the divinity in you. It teaches you equality, which has
Yes.
completely gone missing in our country,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And the bashing, has to happen in an unbiased way. because
Exactly.
because as a crusader, right every wrong, when you say if there's something wrong happening, you need to point it out. But you
Speak about
cannot
it.
point out Peter and not point out Paul, right?
Exactly.
if,
Yes.
if you're only pointing out Peter and being convenient with Paul, then that shows me your agenda. And I think
Exactly.
because you have an agenda like that, the entire narrative has got so worse right now,
And
so
skewed.
worsened right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not just thanks to the BJP, it's thanks to the Congress and the
Yeah.
Congress cronies. I call them the Lutyens crony cartel, right? Because I mean, this is the la-di-da of the society who love to think that they're the intellectuals of the world. But what have you done? Where's your hunger
Yeah.
to do something for the people?
Yeah.
If you're happy sitting on that podium, going in for an award ceremony, having a red beacon car, then are you really serving the people, or are you serving your own self-interests? I think that has what has harmed the country even more
Yeah.
than the government.
Yeah. No, you're right. I agree with you. I just think that at the end of the day, it's I kind of agree with the Atmanirbhar, and I'll say how. The
Right.
Atmanirbhar concept, if we start to actually use on ourselves by saying, I will work from today to better myself, to be a
Right.
better person, to see, as you said, equality. And how do we see equality? When we see
Right.
divinity in everyone, we
Right.
see God in everyone, you see equality. If you can start to do all of that, I think not only will you become a better citizen of this country, you'll become a better citizen of the world.
Absolutely. And that's exactly our slogan. I change to change India. I change to change the world. I change to change everything, because neuroscience teaches you the only thing you can change is yourself. You
Exactly.
can't change the world, you can't change the government, you can't change Modi, you can't change Sonia Gandhi, you can't change Raga. So many people have tried, but they failed miserably. On a lighter note, right? So what I'm trying to
Jerry's
say is that
wicked. I love it.
oh, no, I mean,
I said
yes.
I love it. You're
Wicked.
wicked.
He loves
So
to be wicked.
yeah,
I love it.
the point is, we're going to speak against anyone who's doing wrong with
Yeah.
equal passion. You cannot single out one party, and I think that is what has hurt the country, and that is
Yeah.
exactly what the BJP people have capitalized on. They've channeled that entire hatred towards them, which was, created by the Congress and the cronies, and taken that hatred and made the people rise for them, not against them. So you will see the narrative on Facebook right now. See, for 70 years they were messing up. Now let's give the BJP a chance. So we've come to such a situation that we are okay with the corruption and the thievery. We are saying now 70 years Congress did it, so now let's give BJP the chance for another 70 years.
We shouldn't be
So
okay
where does
with
that take
anyone
us as a
doing it.
country?
Yeah, we shouldn't be okay with anyone doing it at any time.
Absolutely,
Well,
absolutely.
like I said, as people of
Tell
this
us,
country, we have great responsibility.
absolutely, absolutely.
Sorry, you were
So I
saying I
heard
didn't.
something about the lockdown that you were doing. What do you think
Lockdown.
was this entire migrant labor exodus that happened? Who do you think failed them?
I would be I'm not in a position exactly to say, and I don't want to do exactly what I just said, critique someone.
Right.
However, I do believe that post whatever happened, let's just say everything happened in a hurry, people didn't, it was a pandemic. This has never happened before. It had hit everyone literally in a place that I don't think people knew how to respond. And we weren't the only country across the world. In fact, our response was better than a lot of countries. I will say that. The
Right.
way that we locked down as early as we did, it was great. A lot of things that we did were good. However, that being said, yes, the migrant community was missed. It was a huge community to miss. It was a flaw. It was certainly a flaw. Was it the state government? Was it central government? Those are things that we could have bigger, longer debates on. Beyond that, however, once it was realized, I think that more should have been done in terms of helping them, right? The
Right.
great thing is, of course, that a lot of people, individuals, NGOs came together and helped. I mean, I know I sang for a concert for Safe in India, which helped gather funds for some of these migrant workers. But still, there are large sections of community that have just been ignored. And I will talk about artists here. The migrant labor is called the daily wage community, and they are, as are
Absolutely.
many artists. Now, many people don't realize that a lot of them go out and just like earning a dihadi, an artist also goes and earns a dihadi of 2,500 rupees
Absolutely.
or
Absolutely.
1,500 rupees or 3,000 rupees. It's not a big sum of money, Jerry. That's a tiny sum of money, right? And when he's
Absolutely.
feeding his family of 5 or 6, because unfortunately their families are large, right? So those people have totally been ignored. Art has been put on the lowest of the list of non-essential services. Now, to me, that
Absolutely.
is bizarre. And like I said, I'm not an expert, so I'm not spending too much time on talking about the migrant workers. I will tell you that yes, it could have been handled better, but I have sort of diverted this to speak about artists and the daily with artists community. To take art, which is such an integral part of our lives, to say that I would like any one of the people who are the decision makers to say, okay, today I'll wake up in the morning and I won't listen to my bhajans. I won't open the newspaper and read an article written by a writer. Okay, I will not switch on my television. I will not wear a beautiful sari or a kurta made by a weaver or a shirt or a scarf made by a weaver. I will have nothing to do with art because it's non-essential. I'd like someone to survive a day, anyone to survive a day without art. It is impossible. Art is the voice of our people. It is the voice of all people. It is the voice of our souls. How can you say that art is on the list of non-essential services? To me, that is appalling. Beyond that, to have absolutely no grants to help folk artists. I mean, we are a country that is so rich in so many incredible indigenous art forms and crafts. And for us to absolutely ignore them, they are going to die at this rate. I mean, I know of artists who call me folk artists who say you say you are trying to help them. As artists, we are trying to help them. We're trying to say, okay, I'll get you a small, can you do an online concert? I'll get you a small token fee of 5,000 rupees. And they're saying, koi baat nahi, hum le lenge because abhi hame ration ki zarurat hai. Why should it
Right.
come to this, that they just need that willing to? I mean, years of skill has been brought down to naught, absolute naught, to say
Absolutely.
that your
Absolutely.
skill doesn't matter. And that's not fair. I mean, yes, everyone's going through a hard time, but surely we have enough. We have arts councils in our country. We have many arts councils in our country that have large funds where they every year send people, or they have these budgets to have concerts. Since you're not able to have concerts, since you're not able to send large troops to represent India, use that money those to give everyone a small bailout, a stipend. You don't want to give the money for free, give them online concerts to do so that they can at least earn the money, but find a way. To completely ignore them is absolutely, is not okay. And one of the sad things that has happened, and I've seen it happen, I mean, when the lockdown happened and artists who need to be able to express themselves and perform started performing on Facebook Live, I remember saying to a lot of my artist friends, I said, stop doing this for free. Please understand, you will lose respect, you will lose value. People will think that art is like a hobby. We
Absolutely.
can perform for
Absolutely.
free. And sure enough, it happened. I get a billion calls, or every single artist I know will get calls and say, can you do this? And the minute you ask what is the remuneration, they say, Are, please do it for free. We have no money. However, they will pay for a masterclass to become a better speaker, or a masterclass to do a yoga lesson. Itu, I'm not pointing at you, but I'm just saying, or a meditation class.
Nobody's taking
No, I'm
No,
just
you will be surprised. I completely
Yeah,
empathize with you because I also call myself a daily wage laborer because
yeah.
I'm a professional speaker, and there's so many people calling and saying,
I get
and
that.
these are for corporate gigs
I
where
am speaking as well, and Jerry, I get those calls, and they're like,
yeah,
Sonam, it's okay, we're not paying
yeah,
speakers. I mean, what kind of a comment
right,
is that even? Do we not have to feed our families?
right,
You and I
absolutely,
and Itu are lucky. We're sitting here in these comfortable homes with roofs over our heads. But at the end of the day, what about respect? What about respecting our skill? What about respecting what we
right,
have to offer? And forget
right,
us, people who actually need it just to feed their families. Why is that not happening? So I actually landed up writing a song. And, when you were talking about people who shout at the top of their voices because they have agendas, I've always felt that I've always had a different tone of voice for saying things. I don't think I've ever shouted at the top of my voice. I've always done it in a slightly more restrained, more gentle manner, because I don't believe that whining and shouting really gets you anywhere. People stop listening to you. So here I
right,
used humor to tell the story of how we're just sitting around doing nothing. We're using these hands which are skilled and these lives which are skilled to cut onions. I mean, one of the jokes was, Karte the hum riyaz, sunte the wo awaz, ab haath dho ke baithe re bitua aur kaate pyaz. And I've said, बैठे बैठे खाली ये दिन स्माइल करना नहीं है मुमकिन, जेब भी है खाली क्या बजाएं ताली, बैठे
right.
बैठे मुंह से निकले ससुरी सिर्फ गाली. I mean, it's very unsufi of me, I know, but the point is, it was important for me to use my voice to speak out on behalf of the arts community, to say, I'm making light of it because that's what artists do. We find ways
Absolutely.
to find joy even in sorrow and to entertain you. The fact of the matter is, we're going through a hard time. And not me personally. I'm speaking on behalf of the entire arts community. We're
Right,
going through a
right.
hard time.
No,
I
no,
may be going
absolutely.
through a different kind of hard time where I can't go out and perform, and I may be just missing that. Someone else may need food. But the point is, it's psychologically and financially been horrible on artists. And it will be the last industry to recover, because other industries will recover. There will still be, for a long time, this cap on 50 people for a really long time to come. So, in all likelihood, it's not going to be till next year
Right.
that the arts and events industry and will recover. So, imagine so many people, what are they going to do? And it's going to frighten a lot of young people also who are carrying legacies of family legacies forward, of following in their parents' footsteps. So a young sarangi player's son, when he sees that his father as a sarangi player is getting no sessions, getting no performances, he's not going to take music. He's going to say, "Main naukri karunga." So India will lose so many things. So it's really important that our government gives out a bailout. It's really important that NGOs, that corporates come together. And my only tiny grouse, and I try not to have too many grouses with people because I feel it brings me down. And as you said, we can only change ourselves. But my only tiny grouse is that whenever there's a massive catastrophe in the world, any kind of catastrophe, the first people to come forward is the arts community. We sing Heal the World, We Are the World, Feed the World, you name it. Even now with COVID, there were so many artists who came together in the beginning just to entertain people and when they were home or to raise funds. I've done so many fundraisers, but who is helping the artists? And why? Why is it so convenient to forget artists?
Right.
You know?
Absolutely, I completely echo your sentiments. In fact, around a year and a half ago, I was invited for a talk at an offsite, and the HR people at this organization really bargained with me and cut down my price, right? And they said, we don't have budgets. And then the night I land over there, I see everybody doing Nagin dance on Himesh Reshamya's numbers. Himesh Reshamya was singing there. And
Yeah, and
then
of course they didn't have money for him.
over dinner, I got to know that Himesh Reshamya was paid 10 times what I was being paid. And the
Standard.
next day, I did the entire talk and the workshop. And towards the end of the workshop, I said, who added more value to you guys, me or Himesh Reshamya?
Yeah.
And I said, I was underpaid, but yeah. So anyway, that's on a lighter note. I
Yeah.
completely get what you're saying. But the insight to that question was I was not trying to put it on the state, because I think most people conveniently try to put the entire migrant labor issue and the exodus onto the state. I think the state was operating with their hands tied, and I'm not defending the state because nowhere in the world is there a playbook about how to really cope with
With
a
COVID.
concern like COVID, because
Yeah.
it's the first time.
Yeah.
But I have a bigger grouse against society,
Yes.
whether it is people who terminated their car cleaners who are being paid 500 rupees,
Absolutely.
or factories and offices which let go the temporary workers, temps as they are called. The same temps have made Manish Sabharwal a very rich man.
Yeah.
And Manish Sabharwal, who's talking about philanthropy today, should have intervened to ensure that none of the temps lose their work. So sometimes I see philanthropy also as lip service, right? Or you have a Narayan Murthy who was speaking about squeezing the workers more and making them work more hours. Very insensitive. And these are people we hail as leaders in our society. The only man who has spoken sense so far is Ratan Tata in the country. And he said that in these times, if you're laying off people, where is your empathy? And I think that's the big insight. Where is the human empathy disappeared? That's a big
No, so
killer.
I think, Jerry, most of us were hoping that during this time, a lot of people would, introspect and understand what was really important and find empathy. And yes, you're right. Um, for a brief period, I think people did. But then a lot of them lost the empathy because they started to panic. And then it just became each man for himself, another version of Atmanirbhar in a different way, you know? And that
Yeah,
was
but
sad because this is truly, as you said, not the time for people to have been laying
right,
off people. I mean, I know in our own small way, we have not done it. We
right.
still have all the staff, even the staff that can't come to us, we are paying them.
Absolutely.
Even
But
though our avenues for income have
yeah,
been cut off, the
uh,
fact is, you have to think of who needs it more than you.
absolutely. I can buy this entire argument which people give me that, Jerry, many people have lost their jobs also. Dude, you stay in a luxury apartment block that
Yeah.
costs crores of rupees in Gurgaon or Bombay.
Yeah. Yeah.
500 rupees is going to affect you? Come on. I mean, I can't buy that argument. It's like an argument by Thomas More, very kind of condescending, very patronizing. But I think I'll conclude with that insight, and I think E2 had something more to ask you. So
No,
thank you.
I just want to say, that being said, and I agree with you that there have been people who've been insensitive, but also, like I said, I've been very lucky to come across, and I think this keeps restoring my faith in humanity. I came across the Safe in India people who help raise funds for the migrant workers. I also work with the Vidya School, which teaches slum children. In any case, it's a wonderful school for slum children, and they just raise funds. We did a concert to raise funds for the children so that they could buy laptops and phones so that they could do their mobile learning. So,
Right.
I think the good thing is that there are people like us,
Absolutely,
or
absolutely,
people who have the
absolutely.
same hopes as we do, and they're
Absolutely.
still out there trying to do their bit. So I think we can all get a little bit of solace, a little bit of comfort, knowing that there's a lot of hope for humanity still.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
No?
thank you. Yes,
Thank you,
I think
Jerry.
those are
It's
some
been
great
lovely.
insights. And E2, you had something more to conclude with?
So, I was asking about a latest song which had empathy and satire and humor
Why
all
don't you
wrapped
actually
in
play
it.
it on your, if Nishant
Yeah,
can play it?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many songs we would like to play,
No, you
but
can just play the lockdown song. This was something
okay,
which was fun for me, Itu, also because I
yes,
decided to write it. One evening, I think I was just getting tired of just being locked in like everyone else, and I decided to write it. Wrote it in a Bihari, Haryanvi style, which is most unlike me. And it was so, for me also, it was lots of truths that came out. It was very unlike what I'd normally done. I shot
and
it
then
at
shoot
home.
it yet at
I
home.
shot it at home. I edited it. It was done in one take, so there are no actual cuts in it. I
Yeah,
edited just the beginning and end frame, which was the logo and the credits. So I shot it. I produced it. My dogs are in it. All the
yeah,
costumes were done by me, and so it was start to finish a labor of love. And I think that for me also, I think it was very exciting to know that despite the lockdown, despite all the restrictions, I learned I could be creative from home. I could record the songs at home. I could reach out to musicians from home. I didn't have to leave my house. We recorded even the video at home. So for me, it was really personally an achievement or a victory because I felt I was able to do all these things. And so,
yeah,
like in everything that you go through, you learn from. As I say often, Rumi says, "The wound is the place the light enters you." So I certainly feel like in this darkness there was some light.
yeah.
And if you'd like to show the song, if
Yeah, we
Nishant would
will.
like to
And
play it.
my last line would be, we at Rex talk all the time about learning to learn.
Yes, I
So,
agree. I
so
think we're
Nishant,
all
could you please
learning to
play
learn.
that song, the second number?
Lockdown, as it's
Yeah,
called.
low
So
down.
Lockdown.
to play the
Low
video as
people.
Yes,
Yeah,
please. That's the funny part.
yeah.
well. All right, coming
I
up.
think you'll have to share your screen, Nishant.
Yes, I am. Can
Okay,
you see
lovely.
it?
Yes,
Yes.
and you can
All
make it
right.
full screen as well.
बैठे बैठे खाली ये दिन स्माइल करना नहीं है मुमकिन हाँ बैठे बैठे खाली ये दिन स्माइल करना नहीं है मुमकिन जेब भी है खाली का बजाए ताली जेब भी है खाली का बजाए ताली निकली ससुरी सिर्फ गाली बैठे बैठे खाली ये दिल करना नहीं है मुमकिन हाँ बैठे बैठे खाली ये दिन स्माइल करना नहीं है मुमकिन कोई धुन बाजा भी है सुन गिटार पे न कोई धुन बाजा भी है सुन ढोलक बैठा कोने में पूछे बजाओ क्यों न तुम हाँ बैठे बैठे खाली ये करना नहीं है मुमकिन मोबाइल की रिंग बजती थी रात दिन मोबाइल की रिंग रिंग हेलो बजती थी रात दिन सिर्फ बजे भैया दिमाग की घंटिन बैठे बैठे खाली ये दिन नहीं है मुमकिन बैठे खाली ये दिन स्माइल करना नहीं है मुमकिन
Yeah.
Yes. I think that the internet was
Yes,
a
yes,
bit
yes, yes.
slow. But if anyone wants to see it, it's called the Log Down Song, and it's on YouTube. And it really just, I will just reiterate the words. It says, "Baithe baithe khali ye din, smile karna nahi hai mumkin. जेब भी है खाली क्या बजाएं ताली बैठे बैठे मुंह सा निकली ससुरी सिर्फ गाली." And in fact, the last verse, I think Jerry, you'll relate to, which we didn't get to because it was a bit jerky. It said, "फ्री में गावो जी एक्सपोजर मिलेगा फ्री में गावो जी पैसा न मिलेगा अरे खाने की चिंता काहे पेट हवा से भरेगा," which is
Very
what
nice.
everyone has been saying without any compassion, as you said, for daily wage workers and for artists and for freelancers and people who don't have the regular sort of jobs where they go into an office and come out. So I think that I've been saying this to a lot of people, that please understand, now is not the time, as Jerry also said, now is not the time to be cutting back in terms of payments. Yes, if you can't afford to pay people as much as you would have, I understand that. I think most people understand that. But don't not pay them at all for their services or their skill. A, it's disrespectful. B,
Right.
it's a little insensitive if you don't realize that they also need to be running their homes and their families.
Very true. Excellent. So
Yeah.
thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you with us.
Thank you.
And I've
It's
learned
so
so much from the
lovely.
interaction from the session. We would love to have you as a mentor in residence so that we can
Gosh.
we want to actually, because we are doing something called the digital Rex Karmavir Youth Fellowship, and the intent of the fellowship is to empower the kids who are going to be completely at sea when this lockdown and the pandemonium dies out, because there are no jobs out there,
Right.
and most of our education unfortunately prepares the youth and the students to become career mules, as I call them, where they are looking for jobs now and there are no jobs out there. So I think it's time to enable them, empower them to think independent, to think about pursuing their passion so that they can transform that into their mission and start monetizing on that and become independent professionals. And that's where we are bringing in independent professionals like you to teach them through your journey about how you made your own mark and have become your own personal brand today.
I'd be
So
more
we
than
would
happy to
love to
do
have you
that.
as a
Of course,
mentor in residence
happy.
there.
And thank you for
Yeah,
thinking of me. That's very, very
yeah.
kind of the both of
Thank
you
you
to.
so much, Sonam. No, and every time we have told Sonam and I've asked Sonam, come on, you're going to be part of Rex in any way, and you've always
I
said
think I
yes
was
to it. So
already
thank
part
you.
of it before you asked
Yes,
me. I think I just
Yeah.
decided
I
to
know.
adopt you all before you
Yes,
adopted
yes,
me.
Thank you
yes,
so
I
much.
know.
Thank you so much. And thank you also for agreeing to do the Thanksgiving song for us,
So yeah,
which is
No,
to
I'm
thank
so
all
happy.
the neglected heroes like our migrant labor. I always
yes,
say it's because of the migrant labor that the economy runs. You
Yes,
know,
it is true.
whether it's a roti, kapda, or makan, it's because of the migrant labor, not because of some real estate builders or fashion designers or celebrities. It's they who are the roots and the core of our economy. But somehow we don't understand that, because we are a country of idol worshippers, as I call them, right? So we'll always worship Amitabh Bachchan. I mean, I was very happy when a fighter plane pilot called Rajiv Tyagi wrote a nice article about his days in the Air Force
Hmm.
and how he called Amitabh Bachchan the third, because Amitabh, this was his reaction to Amitabh calling somebody fatherless. I mean,
yeah,
you want to call the guy a bastard, call him a bastard. Why are you calling him fatherless? At least be direct over there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And Rajiv Tyagi wrote a nice article. I'll forward it to you. And he said, this third had the audacity when he was the guest of honor for one of the Air Force events, and our CEO was announcing how everybody should stay disciplined because Amitabh Bachchan is here. And he actually turned around to the commanding officer and he said that your CEO's voice is disturbing me. Please tell that guy to shut up. And he
Wow.
says, immediately from my mouth, a word escaped. And the CEO just put his hand out and said, stop, stop right there. Don't say anything more. Right? He said something starting with MC, whatever. Yeah. And he's written it very candidly. And he said, I was astounded. I was appalled that the turd, he's called him the turd, had the audacity to say this about our COO, who's in command of the entire center. And he said that after the entire event was over, the CEO took me aside and he said, you know what? I know you felt angry. I felt angry too. But the reason I stopped you is because we are above all of them. It'll take them a lot of time to come above to where we are. But we should not fall down to their level.
Dignity.
We have to stay above them. Yes.
Yeah. Be
That
dignified.
dignity. Very nice. I'll forward the article to you. It's on my Facebook wall, written by Rajiv Tyagi, who's a fighter pilot. And I kind of resonated with that because I always say that, we will celebrate the celebrities no matter how big a murderer or a scamster they are. Like, people will still take pictures with a Vijay Mallya and put it up on Facebook, feeling proud that I was with Vijay Mallya, right? Without realizing what they're telling about themselves to people on Facebook.
Yeah.
But we won't celebrate that municipal worker who's keeping Delhi clean or Bombay clean. They work hard, they earn their living. They are the ones who deserve respect, not the ones who
Absolutely,
we
they
think
do
are
deserve.
celebrities and rich and wealthy and famous. But I think that's a mindset shift and a huge change that we require in our society, and that's a tall order. But I'm
I
sure it'll
hope it
happen.
happens. I'm sure
Yeah.
it will. Right.
Yeah.
But thank you for all your
Yeah.
kindness, both
Thank
of
you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Sonam.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you with us. And any
Thank
final
you.
words from both of you?
Yes. No, I mean, I'm just saying.
Final
thank
words
you.
for the evening, I meant.
Neetu,
Yeah.
you get to say the last word.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So Sonam, looking forward to working with you a lot, writing with you a lot, and creating more lessons to learn.
Absolutely.
And I know we have a long way to go at Rex, and we have a lot of work lined up for you as well.
Yeah. And even though I don't know how long this conversation was, but it felt short, which is,
Yes.
well, it
was
felt
just
short, which is
better.
always a very, very good sign. So obviously,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think the
Great.
time flew by and we all
Thoroughly
enjoyed
enjoyed.
speaking to each other.
I would have wanted you to sing a little more, but maybe next time.
Like I said, कहने को इतना कुछ है एक साथ तीनों का, that what can we do? But another one, there'll be more.
Yes, there will be more. Thank
Surely,
you so
ma'am.
much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Namaste. Bye.